If we can get through, I did not need another meeting tonight. And meetings all day. All right. I would like to officially call to order the November 28th, 2017 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. And as always, we will start with a roll call. I am Brian Barabee.
I am Jeff Bryan.
Emily Winter.
David Calcani.
Rebecca Longwell.
We're here.
And first up, request for a COC for Lot 4 North Road. There's no official reading for that, is there? No, well, then there is. Sorry.
No, I wasn't saying it that way. I was trying to find it.
The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for a certificate of compliance from Greg Roy, representing the property owner for work which was never completed on Lot 4 North Road. It looks like we don't have anybody.
So I'll just explain this briefly. I'm not sure. Greg Roy was the representative for the applicant. We discussed it over the phone. Basically, the work on the property was never completed. This is the back lot owned by David James. Recently, we had a project on one of the lots that was closer to the road, so I'm just going to use that map for sake of explanation. This does not. However, the lot is basically behind the developed areas. This is the easement that we were talking about previously on North Road, where they just put in the driveway. That's not under our jurisdiction as far as wetlands go, but due to the fact that it's under a CR, that's why it's jurisdictional to us.
The driveways they could have us at that.
Right.
Okay.
And same thing with this property. It does have a conservation restriction on the property. That's why it was jurisdictional, on top of the fact that there are wetlands on the property. Again, no work was done. I was out there. It's wooded area, the entire lot. So they're just looking to close out so there's no lien on the
There's
property.
nothing on it, yeah. And they would have to reopen if they were going to propose anything new, right? They would have to.
Well, they would file a new order of conditions because
right?
it's going to expire soon as well.
So
Okay.
they did an order and
Yes.
didn't do any work, and now they want to,
Correct.
yeah, so.
Anybody have any issue with that? Usually quite fine. All right, in that case, I would like to make I'd like to make a motion that we issue an order of that we issue a certificate of compliance for Lot 4 North Road. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. So, certificate.
So this would be a certificate of compliance under the invalid order of conditions. So it just specifies that the order of conditions has lapsed and is therefore no longer valid, on top of the fact that the work had never commenced.
Thank you.
So we have time before the second one, so we'll let that get around. You, can I ask quick, did people have a chance to look through the minutes?
I did.
All right, any issue with them?
Nope.
Just problem, Mr. David, I know you weren't here on this one. Going forward, usually Rebecca will get the minutes out to us in advance just to read, make sure they're fine, and we can certify them at the meeting. So, that said, quickly, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our November 7, 2017 meeting as submitted. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
A favor.
Aye.
I share the seconds around here.
Rebecca, we have just about 10 minutes. Is there something else down the bottom you would like to get to?
Well, we were awarded the invasive species management program grant from the Cooperative Invasive Species Management Association, which is relative to the Sudbury, Aspet, Concord Rivers Association. So with that, what we're going to be doing starting January 1st, we'll be kicking off an invasive species management program at Fifeshire Dam Conservation Area to basically act as a focal point and sort of a showcase of how the community can get involved, how to remove various species. There's some bittersweet, multiflora rose, water chestnut. So there's a purple loosestrife. There's a really good mixture without being too excessive, so it's a little bit more productive, and then we'll be able to use that as an example and continue that project annually. So with that focus, we're also going to be developing some maps associated with invasive species throughout town. We're going to be using a few programs that have been approved by the state that track on a larger map after they've been approved after entry into the data system. We will also be doing a 2 or 3 workshops just to sort of present a how-to remove different invasive species and get conversation going. So that's things to look forward to. Also, the planning board has asked, sort of on a different note, the planning board had asked that we confirm meandering trails through the new open space in Tadmore. I attended the last Trails Committee meeting because the planning board wanted their input as well as their volunteers that manage the trails with us. So something that was brought up was to connect to Forbush. Currently, the proposed trails connect to the intersection of Forbush, Green, or Forbush and Main, really, across from the high school. And the other connects our current parking area on our Wilder Conservation Area down to Goose Pond or Wilder Pond. So what we had proposed was to continue that along the back of the lots, create a short easement across 2 lots to connect the open spaces and come out on Forbush. So that's really the only change that has occurred. The project is non-jurisdictional outside of the open space that's proposed. So they've done a pretty good job at carving out what we would be extremely concerned about. It is still affecting the area as far as upland habitat goes. But that's sort of something that we've been looking into as well.
It's enough to just keep it going.
Is it something we need to confirm?
Yeah, it's something we probably should do a poll about. If we can.
So this is the developer that's going to build this trail, right?
Yes. Yep. Trying to see if this has it.
And they've agreed to build the trail?
Yes.
Not the sidewalk in the front?
No?
Trail.
They'll cut in the trails,
The
yeah.
easements and just...
Can I just ask, what is Tadmore?
Yes, Tadmore is the new development going in on, right behind where the DPW currently is. There's a large property there, a portion of it's commercially zoned and the other portion is residential. So what they're looking to do is use that residential property, but the entirety of the development will be named Tadmore.
Okay.
So it's on the corner of Main and Forbush,
Yep.
except for DPW sort of disrupts that.
So saying, if you're driving along, you see the trailhead to, is that, the conservation area.
Right.
Yeah. It's between that kind of bookends it.
Yeah.
That trailhead's one end, right, and
Right.
then back to the DPW is the other.
So I don't have the big map, I can run and get it upstairs if necessary. But basically, so this is the conservation area,
Yeah.
this is Four Bush Mill, this is DPW. Currently, the open space is, okay. I'm just gonna explain it using this. So currently, there's an open space parcel that wraps around here, and that wraps around on this side. So the trail, the meandering trail, there would be one out front here. That one would be more substantial to provide accessibility, so it would be stone dust and grades associated with accessible trails at the cost of the developer. And planning is basically creating a maintenance fund of some type to be sure that it's maintained over.
And that corner's not jurisdictional, right, to us?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And so this area is jurisdictional, and over here is jurisdictional because it's in the buffer zone. There are 2 lots on the definitive plan right here, and those are the only, I guess, obstruction to creating a trail that comes all the way across because there's open space on both sides. So when I was at the Trails Committee meeting, what we had spoken about and suggested was to just provide a 25-foot easement at the back of those 2 lots to be able to provide connectivity from the conservation area to Four Bush Mill Road.
Did they agree to that? The developers?
They have not yet not agreed to it. They wanted the
So they
commission
have
to come.
not,
To
yeah.
see if we
Yes.
were comfortable.
Oh, okay.
The
If that's
meandering trail, yes, and this one as well, that's a little more substantial. And they asked what other input we had.
Yeah.
Do you have additional concerns with it? I mean, as far as the trail goes, it doesn't, it seems like a logical connection to
Yeah.
make between the two. I know when it's time to condition the houses, you know, that might be a different thing, but we're just talking about,
We're just
The
talking
trail?
about the trail. Because this, and I apologize, this is the
It's all right.
preliminary, not the definitive. I think I have the definitive upstairs in my office, but all the jurisdictional area is
that one lot.
inside of the open space. And I think this lot's lawn cuts in about 5 feet.
Yeah, so it'll be very minimal. All right. You're not here for questions on this?
No, on this, no.
Okay. Does anyone have any thoughts,
This is,
concerns?
like I say, you know, talking about the trail,
Mhm.
that's the only thing that,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I mean, everything else is approved, right? I mean, basically.
Yeah.
And the front part of it, they have to put a sidewalk in, or do they?
It's not gonna be on us either.
No,
way.
either way.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
One
no.
way or the other.
Um,
The only thing is the trail coming through, it would be nice, you know, to have that to connect over to the pizza place and the liquor store.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was pizza, like, what else do you need,
What
right?
else do you need?
In school, yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, I have no issues with it
I don't
as it's
either.
proposed. If you had a chance to get out there and walk it, or is this just all?
Nope, so this is, they're planning a site visit, and the planning board right now is leaving it open to whatever trails we approve, to be sort of formalized with the developer, throughout that process, because we haven't been able to schedule a site visit because of the holiday and, just everyone's schedule, I guess. We're trying to do it, last week or this week, but it didn't end up happening, so.
And the Trails Committee did put you as the lead on this, right?
The Trails Committee?
Yeah. Didn't we, weren't you supposed to set up the walkthrough and
Yes,
all that
yep.
stuff with them?
Yep. Yep, and they were sent, I believe Larry and Winslow. Gordon said that they would like to go. So I did share with them what the potential availability would be, and then I sent it to Brandon from Newsham Dillis. He wasn't available, so he didn't get back to me until this Monday, yesterday.
Yeah, so I take time off to go
Okay.
do that with the boys. you
Yeah.
know.
that said, which is a really good point, like, if it doesn't really throw them or really hold anything up,
Yeah.
I think it would make sense wait till after we get out there to confirm it, to have you, and especially if Jeff can go or Trails Committee, to go and see,
Okay.
this isn't a god awful mess that we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
have to build bridges through and swamp that they're gonna have to fill, and,
Mhm.
okay. All right, well, thank you for the update, and we can wait on that one next. And that's 7:16, so when you're ready, do you have a,
Yes. Would you like to come?
Am I on tap?
you got that?
On the grill? Hi. My name is John Mecklin.
How are you?
I'm representing Tony.
Actually, if you will, hold on one second,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we gotta officially open this.
I'm sorry.
Otherwise, you have to introduce yourself again.
All right.
All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination filed by John Mecklin for the property located at 21 Century Mill Road. Public meeting held this evening.
Oh, that's not the right address.
Oh, no, yeah,
Long
is
Hill
Long Hill.
Road.
Yep.
It's a new common drive. Do you have an address associated with that yet?
We were just given a house number. I want to say it's 339, but in the submittal, it's listed as Lot 4C.
We'll call it Lot 4C.
Yeah, that's
All
right.
right.
Put on the app.
What's your net? See, now I have to read it again. Now I should make you do this. All right, so the Bolton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination for the property located at Lot 4C, Long Hill Road, the public meeting to be held this evening. Oh. Yeah.
My name is John Mecklin. I'm the applicant for tonight's hearing for the owners, Tony and Danelle Kaselka. I'm a building contractor. So I have two drawings here. The principal one shows in all too much detail the scope of the work in question. In a nutshell, there is an existing driveway on Long Hill Road with two homes on it. 1, 2. And the third home for my clients, which are in the process of permitting now, would invoke the common driveway upgrade / bylaw. So the driveway has been completely re-engineered with new drainage and new surfacing, and upgraded to a much higher standard of a regular single or two-family driveway. So that involves a fair amount of work in the first couple of 100 feet. This is station 4, so the first 400 feet has a fair amount of work to go on. However, the driveway is in place. All the clearing has been done, and we're making the driveway nicer. You can see the new contour line, so there is some excavation to make the first 400 feet more gentle. Right now, there are two, albeit meager, but there are two retention basins at the foot of the driveway, which we will be upgrading. The curb cut is already in existence, so you can drive any size vehicle up this driveway and out onto Long Hill Road at present. So what brings us before the board is across Long Hill Road to the southeast, there's a row of houses, and the land drops off behind that row of houses to a pretty deep swale, naturally occurring valley, I guess. And there is a stream. I don't want to define the stream. You would know better
It's a
than I
perennial
would.
stream.
Okay. At the base of that depression. We are less than 200 feet from that stream. We are somewhere, we didn't have a surveyor did it, but just for the purposes of our meeting, it's probably 20 to 30 feet shy of the 200-foot offset. So my proposal, and
I'm sorry, well, I was gonna say, that's one quick, where are we jurisdictional on the driveway? Is it
Literally, like,
just the curb cut? Like,
It's literally
none
just
of
the
this
bottom.
is gonna,
that's right, the 200 would occur, I don't want to point to a place, but somewhere.
but you
Yeah.
basically,
Basically.
right.
So-
Somewhere up there. There are pretty aggressive protection measures that have nothing to do with conservation, but kind of piggyback on your typical measures. Our work is protected already in the approved recorded plan to have basic sedimentation protection wattles and stuff along here. Also, during construction, I have to cut, and it's on the second detail sheet, I have to cut a very deep swale right at roadside and fill it full of 8-inch crushed stone, 8 big chunks of crushed stone. That's to clean the tires of construction vehicles off. It's kind of a standard practice to keep mud and stuff from getting trucked out in the road.
I see.
So
Try to
construction.
Yeah, it's just kind of a
I
waste.
see,
Yeah.
yeah. What are you gonna do after it's done? You take those stones away?
It all gets pulled out and then all paved nicely, and there's a little berm here that will keep, just in the common driveway bylaws, nothing gets out across the road and then down into the. So I guess the question would be during construction, and I feel that, that already in place, or the case I think can be made, that the protections already in place are gonna be sufficient to easily protect the resource, as well as the fact that we're crossing a paved road in the meantime, and hopping up over another. This is a rural road that has that effect that can be a problem at times, but the road sand builds up along these roads, so there's almost a little berm on either side of these roads. So that's pretty much my speech, and then I kind of turn it over to
That's
any
pretty-
verification or contradiction by.
No, that's pretty accurate. Again, it's basically just the bottom of the driveway that's even jurisdictional. There is lawn and the row of houses, and then more land area, and then the perennial stream. This is upgrading from all that. So that's why he went with the RDA versus a notice of intent. Because the minimal amount of work, it is a pre-existing driveway. There is riprap going in that area as a construction apron for the drive, but most of the work is outside.
Did you have any concerns that said?
Yeah, I don't have too many concerns. My one question is, the driveway is not paved now.
Correct.
So that would be the only major change, but the fact that I know having common drive, you have to do a stormwater.
Oh, yeah, we have really aggressive, these are stone-lined intercept trenches all the
Yep.
way down. These are additional stone-filled intercept trenches. So, the common drive bylaw essentially prohibits me from dumping any water, zero, into the street at the end of my job.
Oh,
Right, to the street.
Yeah,
Basically
so even though it's paved,
Yeah.
and there's increased runoff,
you're still gonna have to run off
I
somewhere
can't-
other than the street.
yeah,
It has to run
and I'm
off.
deepening these
Somewhere.
retention ponds right here as part of our effort. See this stone line swale all the way down. And this is a little more, there's a stricter standard that you're held to when you do a common driveway that's approved by the planning board, in that there is a contracted civil engineer that inspects the work throughout. He inspects the work at the end. The owner posts a pretty aggressive bond. The owner has to post a bond 1.5 times the value of the work for the duration.
homeowner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a chunk of change
Yeah.
for the duration of the job. So the process isn't taken lightly. It's not like we're poking one driveway out in the woods and no one's ever gonna look at it and I can kind of abuse my privilege. But, so the inspection processes and the monitoring process is pretty thorough. So I think that gives even a little more credence to my presentation, that perhaps we could address this with the precautions that are already in place and possibly avoid an order of conditions.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Please.
These things catch the water that come off the driveway as it's coming down, so the water's all gonna come down here.
Well, yeah, there's a high point.
I was
Right
gonna
there,
say-
and then the other stuff
Right.
goes that way.
Yeah, here's the high point.
All right, so it comes down. How much rain does that pick up? I mean, if you have like a,
I would have to rely on the math that these gentlemen have done.
I just
And
curious.
there's a, yeah, In my experience, having seen these at the end of the day and the end of the job, the size of these retention areas are really what makes the big difference
Yeah.
in something like this. You know?
I just kind of.
Yeah, we get to shelve some water off into the, this is fully vegetated.
This is
Yeah.
the wood.
This is woods.
Woods.
This is full mature wood, there's no other.
Suck it all up. but-
Yeah, that's right. There's actually, there's some stone wall still in existence here. The next driveway is quite a ways down, so even though their frontage goes in here, you know how this frontage goes. with
Yes,
these lots. So
yes,
Next
yes.
driveway's way down here. So this is fully mature woods that's undisturbed as we speak. There are no more building areas here.
Hmm.
There's no more building lots, period, till the town line. The power line crosses right down here. There's the power line. So that's pretty much my case.
Questions?
That was the only question I had, it's just, get a 100-year storm.
Yeah.
It's got to flood anyway, so.
Yeah.
No, it
There's
won't.
no, I know.
500.
There's no vernal ponds or
500.
stuff. You've been out there and walked it?
I have to buy the front portion that is jurisdictional to us.
Yeah.
And that.
No salamanders living in that?
No, there's nothing like
Yeah,
that.
do we get the, but that, I mean, that's a big thing for me, and we're really only talking about
That
the end of the
little
drive where it hits the curb cut.
Yeah.
And
And the major disturbance is happened 18 years ago. All these trees are gone. I mean, this is a
Yeah,
cleared,
yeah,
cleaned
yeah.
area, not.
And the specific stormwater standards that need to be met for a common drive are already taken
place.
care of. Yeah, so I'm okay with it.
I tend to be, in this one. Oftentimes in these projects, we do a site visit to go out and take a look to see what's really going on. If you hear what we said with being jurisdictional, we only get to weigh in on land within 200 feet of a perennial stream.
Yep, or substantial upland. So, for instance, if this was a new driveway being cleared, where it's not, it's been there for some time now, it's just paving and being reworked, basically, then we would have sort of the option to take a look at it to see if the upland disturbance would cause a significant disturbance to our specific jurisdictional area within that 200-foot area. But where it's already pre-existing and they're improving it to an extent, it's, the upland's really not jurisdictional on a project like this.
We also have fully developed homes. We're into the 60s
Right.
right there.
So I'm
So there's
picturing
probably
that's,
between 80 to 120 feet of developed strip here. So we're in no threat of being
Yeah.
contiguous to any wetland species or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And the contours are pretty pronounced. It just heads straight downhill to the bottom of the swale.
And
There's
you're
no-
not extending the curb cut or anything.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So usually the case, if it's a small enough disturbance like that, and hearing on something like this, I will usually refer to Rebecca if she's been out there to see her thoughts, and if she's not overly concerned with something like this, we'll probably just make the motion tonight and vote on it. If people are comfortable with it, if it seems to make sense what they're doing, you don't think it's too invasive. What determination would best fit this on the RDA?
It would be, and I apologize, I don't have determination typed up.
That's okay.
But I can do one quick before everyone leaves and get it signed.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah,
vote for it,
yeah,
but it would
yeah.
be, if you were voting to approve it, you would do a -3 because it's not a -5, which would pose some sort of exemption.
Right.
And a -3 would mean that you can do the project. And then if you wanted to impose anything, just to specify the straw wattles and silt fence, which I know is already imposed under the common drive regulations and jurisdiction, but if that's something we wanted to justify again, that's doable.
You know, I think it's perfectly acceptable. My work is gonna be visible to the public eye, meaning any commission member and/or a butter, without feeling that they're encroaching on the property at all. So I don't know, do you have room for any verbiage in the decision to say that, correct siltation member
Yep.
stuff will be maintained throughout the,
Mhm.
and then it's not as if we did nothing here.
Yeah,
We-
yep.
So that's already, yeah, that's right.
And I've worked with your administrator on some other jobs, and I'm a developer, so we get to wear that black hat sometimes, but I have been in town a long, long time and find that a completely open book, open project method is pretty successful. And I think Rebecca might back us up, well, short term. but-
Generally. makes
Yeah,
sense.
short term.
Short term.
Yeah.
Short term,
Jury's
yeah.
still out.
Yeah.
Jury's still
Thus
out.
far. We'll,
So far.
Yeah. Um,
So if we have our boilerplate siltation information in there,
yeah,
and it's already covered under the common drive order, basically,
yeah.
I'm not sure what else I would add to it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we have a -3, that we find a -3 determination for the request for determination for Long Hill Road, Lot 4C.
It's Lot 4C.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Jeff, you had a second?
Second.
Okay. So I will
Moving here from California.
They are.
type of.
Sheesh.
I know.
Did you see that palace?
I was to say, it looks like a beautiful house.
Yeah.
But I almost want to go up for a site visit just to walk the driveway.
I think this
I'm
might
gonna
be
walk the full driveway.
Some
yeah.
a guest house or something.
Yeah.
There are some kind of guest.
Guest quarters.
Why are they moving from Florida? Well, that's about
You know, that's a-
Yeah.
Interesting
I
question.
haven't asked that question yet.
We should be asking those. Yeah. Yeah. We should hope
There's gotta be some family, something involved.
Somewhere.
I know the owners purchased a lot many years ago.
Yeah.
As soon as this whole place was cut up, I think about 99 or 95 or something, they bought this lot. So it's been in the back of their mind for a long time.
Oh, good.
We'll
welcome them.
I bet it's beautiful there. Yeah.
Has the house been built?
No.
No, you're just getting ready to start.
Yeah, no, this is all part of.
Part of the whole thing. Good, I hope they throw a party first.
Really?
Yeah.
The
They should
lot,
make
the lot has been cleared. that's
They should bring the cookies.
And we drilled the well. There's just anecdotally, there is the largest standalone boulder I've ever seen in Worcester County, right there. It's huge. It's
Really?
huge, yeah, right
Not
there.
gonna move it though.
No, it's staying right there. It's gonna be a feature in the landscape. and
Holy
everything.
cow, yeah, it's about half
The
the size
glacier
of the house.
attic, it's really big. It's, you could, if you were a rock climber, you could practice on it. There's
That's
several
big.
Bolton, there's some really interesting ones at Bolton. That's the biggest one I've ever seen.
See, now
It's
I
a
want to do a
doozy.
site visit.
Oh,
Let's bring it.
I wonder where it came from.
Glacier?
Glacier,
Oh, yeah.
Quebec.
yeah. Minnesota, Quebec
We were on
area.
the-
North to south,
trail.
right? North to south.
We were out on the trail, visit a couple weeks ago. Were you there, Rebecca, when we did this thing and they said there was a
Oh, and rattlesnake.
and
Rattlesnake is
Yeah.
a
Some
big
great boulders.
There's a
Yeah.
granite thing that came from Maine or something.
When I was a kid, we
Oh,
did a lot of fooling around out there. There's some big boulders out there
Yeah.
to climb around on.
My kids love
And,
rattlesnake, yeah.
But this one's bigger. If you've ever been, the biggest one I've seen, if you've ever been to Wachusett Meadows in Princeton, there's a real nice nature preserve in Princeton. And they have one, I'm exaggerating, it's not half as big as a town hall, but it seems like it is. I don't know what kind of glacier picked it up and left it there.
This is a wrap up, so I have to type that one up and then have you sign it before you leave.
Sure.
It'll take 2 seconds, I promise. And I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Okay.
If you're
I started too early. Am I leaving too early? Am I good?
No.
You're perfectly-
You're
I
all
was just
set.
saying, you got approved, stop talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Don't let the door
Yeah,
hit you. Go out the door.
Thank you very much for all your attention.
Thank you.
Good luck with
At
that.
our last meeting, we had approved the septic system for 437 South Bolton Road, contingent upon receiving the DEP number and comments. There are no comments, we did receive the DEP number, so I just need signatures, please.
I'm doing both.
No, there's just one there.
I was about to say property.
David, I'm sorry you can't sign this one because you weren't here at the last meeting.
This only,
So we're down to 7:30 now, right?
we are good. We're almost kind of keeping on time too. Scary. All right. Are you in good shape? Right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the Bonazoli land donation of 29.06 acres adjacent to Danforth Brook. Public meeting held this evening here in Town Hall. Rebecca, could you give us a quick update?
Yes. So Deborah Bonzoli came into my office, called a few months ago, and she finally come in. She really would like to donate this large parcel to commemorate sort of some of the history of her husband's family, along with the history in their doing things for the town and the community. Along with that, the family was interested in the open space and having large parcels of land, built or unbuilt, on the property. They had some farms along with other businesses or business activities. So when she'd come in, we discussed it about what her options were. There's a front parcel that abuts Hudson Road that she is looking to donate through the state program, which would put it under protection in perpetuity. It wouldn't be under chapter land. But then she would write in it that the state would have it for the town. And that's for tax reasons.
Yeah.
The back lot, that's actually the larger parcel, is what she is proposing to give to the town. There's a timeline that she needs to do it by the 3rd week of December, which is a relatively quick timeline. So right now, town council is still attempting to do the title search in time. She did mention, which I'm clarifying with her, sort of a contingency on, we accept the land contingent upon the fact that it will be a clear title and a clear title report associated with that. And I'm just trying to reach back out to her to make sure that that was indeed what she had meant when she was speaking about it, and get it in writing from her. And sort of to start the process, on November 5th, she had written a letter to confirm her wishes to donate the land. She states, "I'm writing to you today to formally offer to gift undeveloped land that I own in Bolton, Massachusetts. The parcel is located just off Hudson Road, nearly into Hudson, and is approximately 29.06 acres of land." And there's an assessor's map attached to what you have, Brian, or a few maps.
Yeah.
My ownership of this property can be found on the deed recorded in Worcester County Registry of Deeds.
So it's all
Again,
that.
it was given to her after her late husband had passed. She also, for that matter, attached a copy of her late husband's death certificate to assist in making that definition of where the land is coming from. She does want to be sure, which is unlike most of our other properties, that it is not open for public recreation. And the main purpose for her gift is wildlife conservation. I would like to think that the deer, beaver, and birds will be left alone in this area. Other than naming the gift the Meadowbrook Wildlife Conservation Area, I do not have one other important stipulation. And then she specifies, like I said, the 3rd week in December cutoff, because at that point she will have to reluctantly make other arrangements for the land. Thank you on the commission and Rebecca's time as well for your attention on this matter. So again, this is substantial in the fact that it does border Danforth Brook, having
Just
not
Danforth.
having Yes.
Yeah.
Not having public access does reduce it in value, and I sort of hesitate by saying that in terms of if we're matching it up with the open space and recreation plan goals that we look at. It does provide water protection in terms of private drinking water, along with public health, along with wildlife habitat and resource preservation, open space, its rural character of Bolton. It does abut the open space property that was
That's right.
given in Century Mill Estates development.
Oh, that was from Central.
And that property itself does have trail easement or passive recreation accessibility. So it's not to say that it would be at a loss to not have recreation, because, again, it would give somewhere for the wildlife to have sanctuary, basically. So that's really the update on it. I will hopefully be going out this week or next week. If anyone would like to attend a walk, I am more than welcome and open to having people come with me. Tomorrow I will be pulling up the soil data and wetlands data in terms of what I can find online for background research. But again, the point, if the commission thinks that this is something substantial that the town should have and accept as a donation, it still has to go to Board of Selectmen. Excuse me, and it would be contingent upon a clear title and a few things coming back from town council. And I spoke with our town administrator as our chief executive officer, just to be sure that the wording of a potential contingency, if the commission were to want this property or support this land donation, what would be acceptable language. And we went over that earlier today.
If we were to vote at our next meeting, would she still be able to hit her timeline as far as, because then we'd have to see when the selectmen were meeting afterwards. Basically, if we approve and say, yes, we think we should take this land, we make the suggestion to the selectmen, they actually get to say if we take it or not. So we have to make sure it hits both meetings.
So
But what is
next-
the possible downside of taking this?
Sometimes people try to give land to ease their own tax burden, land that can't be used to begin with.
Just slough it off.
So, and that's where what Rebecca referred to our open space and rec plan. We have a plan that kind of says what indeed we're looking for. We actually have had land, people have kind of given us the right of first refusal, and we basically just had to say no because, you know, it's beautiful, but it doesn't really connect to anything, doesn't fit with anything, there's nothing unique about it, we just can't buy everything.
What would I buy?
This one,
No.
this would be, we just basically have to pay for the title search, which is nothing. This one, it's an excellent property because, as Rebecca was saying, it connects, this is 100 acres, right?
Yep, it's 100 acres of open space, along with it basically envelopes Danforth Brook.
And it sounds like some of this land is what she might be trying to give to the state. As it comes in, and then most of it's swamp. I mean, I know Danforth Brook along, that's it's pretty yellow.
Yeah, that was me, sorry. Yes, it's this lot here. So,
So that's the only thing that abuts Hudson Road, that one piece?
hold on a moment.
Interesting.
Nah, sorry, I have a lot of things in there.
No? Oh, it's yours.
It's all my stuff, sorry. Yeah, that was a tough one to
That
see.
looks good.
Trying to think. So there's one, I believe it's actually, yeah, it's this one. Because, yeah, because it connects here. And then there's private parcels over here.
Yeah.
So this has actually an extensive piece of frontage.
Oh, this piece here does.
Yes,
Let's go
this
along.
piece over here. So this would be the state land, the land that is donated through the state.
Right.
And this
in
would be
theory.
what's donated to the town and abutting the other open space. So in theory, if the state accepts it and she's able to go through with that process, which right now it sounds like it's going positively, from a third party sort of follow up with that. But so if that goes through, that means that we as the Conservation Commission and myself as the conservation agent, a town official can go out if there's reasons to go out there, if someone's encroaching on the conservation land, that sort of a thing, because the boundaries are posted. But as far as public recreation, passive or active, she is very strongly and respectfully requesting that it's not. And her explanation was the extensive beaver activity, there's about 2, if not 3 lodges that you can see right from Hudson Road in Danforth Brook. There was a dam that's been rumored to have been taken down, but I'm still looking into that. And I haven't seen more activity to sort of support that. However, she wanted this land donated to provide basically an access way for the deer and other species that were on her lot across the street. That's now proposed to be a development, which we'll actually see at our next meeting. So this would provide not only a wildlife corridor into basically an area of sanctuary, but also, again, a nice piece of property for the town that buffers Danforth Brook and also is abutting the open space.
So to go back to your original question, there's no real good reason why we wouldn't want to accept this one.
Right.
But I would say with the site walk on this one, it's kind of a case of due diligence. The title search is going to tell us a lot, but seeing how it's not even passive, in theory we're not going to be able to hiking through there. I'm sure it's gorgeous. I'm sure the wildlife out there is fantastic, but let's make sure it's not an old sand pit or something else where it's like, this is great, nobody can use this horrible. So, and as long as it doesn't mess up her timeline, I'd love just to get a chance to go out and make sure, all right, this is what it all seems to be. But that said, I wouldn't see why we wouldn't move to accept it.
And then just Brian, to go back to your original question. So I know it's a week away, but I'm trying to get back on the schedule if it works for everyone, the first and third Tuesday of each month. So we'd be looking at December 5th and then December 16th, I believe, unless I'm off by a day or 2.
So would we try for a site walk prior to that December 5th meeting?
Correct. Because the selectmen, we would need to...
It's a week from tonight, December 5th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then that would get us back on schedule for the next 1 month. And then also, the selectmen meet on the 7th. So we would still
work,
we
right?
would still meet that timeline because I can still notify them ahead of time. That will be on the agenda. But that's
Okay. So that's what I'd say for that is why don't we hold off on a vote tonight, put it on our agenda for next time, and then if you could let us know when you're hoping to go out there.
Yep.
Anybody who's around that can go take a look, I think it would be great. So just to make sure it is, I mean, it sounds
Saturdays would be great.
I have to wait this Saturday. Yeah, that's all right. Okay,
Anyway,
so moving along, we're not doing bad on time, right?
so December 5th and December 16th?
Yep.
Currently shooting for.
And I was given permission by Deborah to go out whenever.
Okay.
Deborah's the
So,
owner.
yes, the property owner, Bonazzoli. So I will send out an email tomorrow and set up a site visit for next week.
Would have to be Monday, right?
Monday.
It would have to be Monday or Thursday or Friday.
Yeah. I mean, see what works best.
Do we want to figure that out now, or do we want to,
Sure.
or can people email me their availability tomorrow?
Are we thinking morning, afternoon,
Wait, when? Monday?
Thursday, Friday, or Monday.
Of next week.
Yes.
No,
This
no,
week.
no,
Thursday,
Thursday, Friday of
Friday.
this week, because we have another meeting next Tuesday.
Oh.
Wanna
So
approve
Thursday, Friday, or Monday.
Yes.
And I'm fine with any of those.
Okay.
Generally, like after 2 o'clock is good, but I
Okay.
can switch it up if like something else is gonna work
Yeah.
for everybody else on one
I
of
can do
those
it
days.
after 2 o'clock.
Any other days? Specific day?
Thursday or Friday, after 2.
Thursday.
Friday after 2 would be great, and then I can slide into the weekend.
How long does it usually take?
What?
Like an hour?
An hour, okay.
Yeah. And it's also when you can, like, you walk in,
If I
you can
need
always
to
skip
speed
out.
up,
Yeah.
yeah.
I ducked out of bring across the road.
Well, I
have to go.
have to meet the bus at 3:30.
Okay. David?
So we're thinking one of those
Site
days.
visit?
Sure,
Okay. At 2 on Friday?
2 on Friday?
Does that work?
Yeah.
And if not, totally fine as well, and I just
Yeah.
write up a little site visit report as well. But okay, so 2 PM.
I gotta get the bus too. That's right. I'm gonna be home for the bus at 3:30 as well.
All right, so I will send everyone an event invitation on, through your email tomorrow, so that everyone's updated with that. Can I have my checklist back?
You can. Is this your checklist?
This one.
Oh, that one. That one yours? No, yeah.
That
this-
one?
Yeah, that one's yours.
This one is.
That one's yours. This one's fine. Everything's fine.
Oh, wait. No, that is yours. I apologize.
That's all
I'm
right.
totally stealing your thing. Yes, that is yours.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, sorry.
that's okay.
Um,
We're gonna need this.
so I'm not sure. Are we past the time?
Yes, yeah.
So this, they're not here to speak on the project, but the homeowners from 787 came into my office, asking
Do you want me to
about.
open it? Officially, sorry.
Sorry,
That's all right.
still tired from the meeting.
That was to say, tonight was a tough one. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination filed by Christopher Post for maintenance of a wood line abutting wetlands on the property located at 787 Main Street. The public hearing to be held this evening. Excuse me. All right.
So,
Yes.
the property owner is 787 Main Street. Is this one?
Nope.
It's mine, okay. They had come into my office asking if the work that they were proposing would be jurisdictional. At first, they were filing an NOI, came back in a second time, spoke with me a little bit more, and they had decided that, they'd asked what their other options were, and they'd decided that a request for determination would be more applicable to their project. Their project is proposing to maintain the wood line. They had filed a notice of intent for some work they had done on their driveway previously. And so they have the plans included from that to show us the jurisdictional areas, the limit of work. The trees they're looking to clear or trim, it's really just canopy pruning, which means they're not removing the entire canopy, the entire tree. There's some damaged branches that they're worrying might land on the house in a bad windstorm, along with some shrubs that are at the rear of their property, at the rear of the house structure that they're looking to maintain and clean around that area.
Is that the map that shows?
So this,
What's the number?
If this is their land, why do they have to,
so for,
I mean, I cut down trees all the time.
Right.
Yeah, careful with that, yeah.
Yeah, for, that's why you file an RDA. It's
RDA's request for,
request for determination of applicability.
okay,
That is saying the work you are doing is in jurisdictional area to the Conservation Commission under the Wetlands Protection Act, and, or it may be under the Wetlands Protection Act and the local wetland bylaw. The local wetland bylaw has a no disturbance area of 25 feet from a wetland area, vernal pools, basically anything that's considered wetland or standing water. The Wetlands Protection Act is not more lenient, but basically the bylaw covers any loopholes that could potentially be there. So the next jurisdictional area under the Wetlands Protection Act, which also falls under our jurisdiction, is 100-foot buffer, which includes that 25 feet, along with, if it's a perennial stream, there's 200-foot buffer, which is riverfront area. So for this project specifically, some of the work is basically 40 feet from that area at the closest. So the RDA is basically saying
That area meaning a pool or a stream or?
so it's a wetland.
Okay.
It's a large expansive wetland area.
Okay.
So, yes. So the resource area is a wetland of some sort, vernal pool.
So that's the
lake
real
pond.
issue. I mean,
Yeah, so the
going
impact-
out and
Within
get
it.
back 20 acres and cutting down a tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no water around there, and it doesn't really.
Yeah, if you live
It's
in
fine, yeah.
upland,
Yeah, okay.
non-jurisdictional
You gotta be
lots.
worried there.
Yeah, no. So again, the work proposed is in this hashed area around the edge of their landscaped area, but it is in the wooded area if you follow that. The closest is within, what did I say? 40 feet of the jurisdictional wetland. And then they also measured off 60 feet just to compare to what was shown on their other maps that was engineered by Ducharme and Dillis. So this map here shows the limit of work and erosion control from the driveway project, just showing where the actual wetland is in a riparian zone. This is their home again. You can see there's a wetland area that comes just about next to their home. There's a 100-foot buffer at the front of their property, which some of the area would fall into. Excuse me, the opposite. The entirety of their property is within the buffer zone, which is why they have to file. And then this just shows the end of the driveway. This is Main, so you can see the 100-foot buffer continues to the top of their driveway. Again, just showing the buffer.
So how did that happen?
It's one of those older places on Main Street, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pre-wetland.
Pre-Wetland Protection Act, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you would not be allowed to build a house here now.
So, the work consists of the removal of dead and downed trees in the woods behind and to the west of the house, the pruning of dead branches from trees in the southeastern portion of the property adjacent to the driveway, the removal of one spruce tree at the wood line behind the house, and the removal of one tree in the front yard at the head of the driveway. And all of those are specified to be marked. So all of those correspond, if you want to just read through it, they correspond with the letters here. So after each
Gotcha,
described
yeah.
potential project, they correspond with these. So this is the area that they'll be working in.
This house?
Yes.
What's the number on Main Street?
787.
Where is that, actually?
It is
On
just
the other side of
past-
495?
Sit down beyond Slater's on the other side of the road. The little horse farm there on the left, or not the goat.
It's
yoga.
not the horse farm.
It's not the goat yoga place, is it?
No. Nope,
What number's that?
401.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's embedded.
That is embedded. My goodness. But yes.
So it's Further out, on the right-hand side of the road?
So it's the other direction.
Is it the boathouse on the right-hand side, the big red?
Pull it up.
No.
I apologize
I
to
don't
the town.
Have you been out there?
I've driven by it.
Yep.
It was some time ago though, to be completely honest.
So do they have a permit to do work there now? Or is that what they're asking for?
No, so they,
They just want to trim the trees.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
they just want to trim the trees. So like we've noticed in our other projects that we've dealt with more frequently, or most recently, there is an exemption for maintaining your landscaped area. The reason why it's not solely landscaped areas because it is in the wooded area of their property as well, because their entire property is within the wetland buffer.
So the yellow is what they're clearing out that's treed, right? Is the
Yes.
gray existing lawn?
Yep.
And they're just looking to square it up?
Yes. I'm just gonna pull it up. So
What's the address?
there is 787. So it is just before,
24 Harvard Road.
just before Harvard Road,
Yeah. This.
so it's the other way. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm thinking Long Hill Road now.
He does
but-
I was going the other way, yeah.
Who
This
is it?
I was trying to think who, yeah, because this is a Harvard Road lot, right? So
Is this
Harvard,
Harvard Road? So it's the house just after Harvard
Yes.
Road,
Yeah.
right? Oh, okay.
but not the corner one. And I know
The
that, but I
corner
can't
one
think of
is
who
the
that is.
Phineas whatever
Yeah.
house, right?
No, yeah, not that one.
Yeah.
The other corner is, I
That's
can't
what
think
it's
of the
almost
name.
on top.
Oh, it's the one after this.
I think it's the one after that, right?
Okay,
Which is,
got
you
it.
can't really.
You can't see the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they want to clear all the trees out.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's
Alright.
across the street from the church. This is
I
the
don't know
church
if you
here.
want to handle it.
This is the church here?
Could very well be.
My screen's dirty.
That's all right.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
across the street.
Yeah, there you are, yeah.
So it's, if you're coming down Main,
What do you
Harvard
think?
is here.
I said, what do you
There's
think?
one house and then it's the second house that
Well,
you
it's
can't
easy.
really see from the
Keeping
road.
it, no wonder, it's, you know, I know that house that's in there. You can't see it from the road because there's so many trees.
Yeah.
No, Golden Orchards is even further
And they're
down.
not
So
looking
this
to
is
clear
the
cut.
libraries, like
The
right
trees
on
around
the
front of their
here.
house.
It seems like a trim
And then the cut, the road that cuts through to
You can't see
Waterfall
that
is here,
house in
and then
the
across the
summertime.
way
Oh,
is
Manor,
Harvard.
oh, this is
No,
Manor,
yeah,
this is
yeah.
Harvard Road.
Yeah.
It is
This is
old
Manor
house.
Road.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what
And that's the
with our
proper
house, you
question.
can't see
No,
your house. We
is
can't see
that-
anybody's
that was
house on the
the
road in the
question.
winter.
Like-
It's great.
Oh, this one here.
Oh, yeah, you can hear us screaming.
Dog
I'm sure.
barking and-
Yeah, yeah.
1.6.
Keeps me sane.
It's good. We're trying to do insane. There's an old guy down front, kids. Never let us sleep.
See, that's senior-itis there, old
Check
guy
it out.
down the street there. You don't like old guys on the street.
Did you have concerns or thoughts?
I don't, aside from just specifying, I mean, and it goes in the termination, and this one will be typed up as well. Basically just stating exactly what it says in there, limiting it to those labels that they imposed on the project. And then just specifying to stay clear of the 25 feet.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I don't have any concerns. It seemed like I just mentioned, it didn't seem like they were looking to heavily impact an area, but rather just maintain and clean up their property, but being mindful and respectful of the resource area.
Yeah, and that's one of those properties where there's no place they can go.
Right.
I mean, I feel comfortable with it
Yeah.
as it's proposed. I don't know if others have concerns. Get it with them. That said, they're a 3 determination?
We can do
Well, what would be the best? I'm trying to think.
I need to double check the language. There is an exemption. Oh, no, it wouldn't because it's not maintained lawn. You're right. So it's -3. I retract that statement.
That's perfectly fine. Strangely, I guess, correct. All right, in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we find a -3 determination for the request for determination for 787 Main Street. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So determined. Oh, we did COC.
We did this one last time.
No,
No?
not 651. Didn't we do the other Main Street last time?
Yes. 651. Actually, was just there earlier today to finally do the site visit.
We hear all about it. Yeah.
Yep.
The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for a certificate of compliance filed by Jack Maloney, representing the property owner for a project involving the construction of a new sewage disposal system located at 651 Main Street.
Which house is that?
Next to Tom Frame's old house.
Okay.
So our close neighbor, this project was proposed due to a failed sewage system. Back So it was issued in September of 2015. I just went over there today after reviewing the plan and the order of conditions. Silt fence is still up and in great condition. The wall that was proposed to be built is in place. The grass is in. Obviously, it's been a few years now. It's fully stable, fully vegetated. No encroachment on the wetland area. The flags are still there as well. I shouldn't say that I don't know if they reflagged the area, but they are there and present. Pretty self-explanatory, very clear, not a lot of other vegetation on top of it. It was, like I said, a failed sewage system, so it is now up to par with what's
Functioning.
necessary.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions, thoughts? All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the certificate of, that we issue a certificate of compliance for 651 Main Street. Do we hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So,
That's this one.
yeah. this-
Yeah.
Did we need to sign the clearing?
Let me type up that determination. I'm gonna do it quick.
Oh, okay, got it.
No, not doing too bad. Actually, I'll start at 8:15, around 8:15. Other topics you wanted to get to quick?
Yes. So, one question we have received from, or have been reminded of by the trust actually Bob Romer, who's working with the trust on the town common and the town purchase of the town common. The only item left after we had amended the order to exclude the wetland replication area due to the fact that it was in a drainage area and the knotweed was so substantial that it's not likely that wetland species would succeed in that area. That being said, the only item is the knotweed itself from the order of conditions, which they are waiting for us to suggest to them a plan of maintenance and/or a suggested way to deal with that as they're looking to hand it over to the town. And since it will be an ongoing severe maintenance cost, I guess you would say, or severe maintenance impact to any maintenance on the property, along with the fact that it's right along Great Brook. And without getting into a full tangent of how Japanese knotweed travels and basically grows everywhere because the rhizomes break off and take on into the soil quite easily. I can't say I'm an expert on Japanese knotweed, but I can say there's not a good outlook for ever eradicating it from the area unless we eradicated it throughout town, which is why the invasive species management program is kicking off. However, again, specific to this lot, it's a conversation that we need to have with them in order for them to close out and receive a full certificate of compliance. So that's just something that we should think about and try and get some ideas for the next meeting. I think last time we honestly talked about goats. We talked about stem injection treatment. We talked about cutting.
For them to close out though, right? It's basically, it just needs to be an ongoing thing, right? It
Correct.
just needs to be written into a maintenance plan that it'll transfer.
Yes. And
All
it can
right.
simply be a certificate of compliance allows you to choose orders to be put in perpetuity on the property.
Yes.
So it can be an ongoing maintenance item, it can be an ongoing sort of check-in and observation by the commission if necessary, but at that point
Yeah.
it will be owned by the town, so I don't know if that's necessary to put in the language, but yes, you're correct in that.
Okay.
So that little patch of knotweed is up against the, little patch, I mean, it's up against the house there, right?
It's up
Well,
against the
it's on
house
both
and
sides
It's on
actually,
both,
yeah, it's
yeah.
on both sides.
Right.
It's
And
in
everywhere.
the neighborhood.
It's everywhere.
It's-
It's
It's
everywhere.
All on the
everywhere,
road.
everywhere. All right,
But the real one, the real hard one is the one up against that house that's falling apart.
yeah,
Yeah, that
that's
was
a real
the-
thing.
That's the real one.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's what I would say, there's an, on the town common, there's an existing order of conditions that was put under for them to do a lot of the work, because there's a lot of wetland areas. They need to close out that order of conditions so that they can go ahead and convey it to the town can go ahead and purchase it. One of those conditions was basically maintaining or trying to remove the invasive species that are there. So what I would say is exactly that if we craft something in the order that basically says, all right, we're gonna close out the order with the ongoing maintenance just being left in perpetuity, which we can do on certain orders. The other thing that I just noted to myself too is we should talk about, and then we'll bug you for a time on this one, to go over the budget.
Okay.
We should probably add to the capital maintenance line to try to figure out invasive species management there.
Okay.
Whether it's like Henderson Striker or something along those lines to come and do a once in a year pull-a-thon.
Okay.
Pull-a-thon?
I mean, for a lot of Japanese knotweed, your
They
best
just
bet
pull
is just to yank it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you gotta burn it out too. You can't throw it anywhere, you can't put it anywhere.
Yeah.
How successful is the stem injection?
Check
And do
with
you have
Stowe.
to cut it and then inject? Like, how does that work?
So what you
Stem
do is you cut it, the best, which no one's been able to completely eradicate it,
Yeah,
because it always comes back, because like I was saying, even the smallest rhizome from it will cause the plant to prosper in whatever soil or substrate it gets into.
Yeah,
The best method to maintain it is to cut it early spring, do stem injections or stem treatment, foliage sprays, and then
yeah,
again cut it. And it's just a continual cyclical treatment cutting cycle.
Yeah.
Never goes away.
Yeah. It's very, and like I said, when you have properties that are budding, the property you're trying to control, specifically with the
Right.
waterway, not only wind, it's,
and if they're not maintaining it,
yeah.
it's just gonna,
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it gets in the stream, it just washes down.
that's, if we're around the common, we can walk by, there was a replication area that's the one we had to amend the order for because it's in the middle of a jungle.
yeah,
It was
Not
like,
weeds.
you know, you can plant whatever you want here, it's gonna be choked out and dead.
Right.
Within
Sure.
like 3 weeks, like, just don't waste your time.
Yeah, unless you hire like 10
Constant,
people
yeah.
to just pull every
well,
day.
we dug up a large portion of it at our house.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, dug it from the
Yep.
roots and it
Yeah.
came back.
Yep.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't, the whole root ball was gone and
Oh.
it came back,
It's
so
evil.
I,
They can't pickle it.
You can't eat it apparently.
Apparently,
I would,
Yeah, good on that.
be a revenue source.
So I think that would be the idea, if we could draw up something that basically just switch it to a maintenance plan in perpetuity,
okay,
but something that we'll be able to manage,
okay,
because we're gonna be the in perpetuity group doing that.
right.
And then again, we should talk budget and trying to find, and you know, even if it's goats, which would be great.
is that typically done by volunteers or do you hire out?
Oh,
Do both, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of it all ties into the whole invasive species
Yes.
management program?
yep.
Okay.
Another
Hopefully
guy-
that's gonna bolster more volunteers, or at
Yeah,
least people
we'll
who
see.
can spot some of these things.
Right,
You know the guy that's doing the Bower Springs cutting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe he should get a quote from him on what he would do to maintain it.
Actually,
Yeah, and that's what Brian
Yeah.
was suggesting.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure if I'm remembering if he had in the past, as sort of just a very minimal casual conversation when he was presenting to us about other mowing for other conservation properties. But yes, that's definitely, would be a good person to contact. I was actually speaking with him today about the Ailanthus plants,
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
basically what the options were to maintain it. And sort of off topic, but still an invasive species, he said this year he's just gonna cut it and pull it, and then next year we can revisit stem treatment. And it'll give us some time to mull it over, collect some more information. But even that, same thing, cutting and the stem treatment is the best, so. He is very knowledgeable. He also works on many different trustee properties and conservation properties, as well as I believe he may be on his own conservation commission. So he's aware of the concerns of conservation properties as well.
we can do 8:15.
So this one's all done, right? We just signed off on that 8 PM one, right?
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
yep, the 6:51.
You're getting about done here today.
We tried, yeah, we tried.
Always. Water
I'll
out.
take the middle of it, yeah.
So it's
Yep.
279,100.
All right, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for a partial certificate of compliance for 279 Long Hill Road, the refurbishment and a shed on Lot 1.
So this project, I was explaining to Emily a little bit earlier that there's some confusion to it. in terms of not the actual project that was carried out, but rather the filing itself. It was done a time when I believe we were between people, or my predecessor was here. I have full confidence that the sign-off was relative to the correct plans, because both Brian and my predecessor signed off on them, and this is why I was confident with the plans that were presented to me, because they're not the original plans that are addressed in the order of conditions for this proposed partial certificate of compliance. The original plans were never completed on this property. It had proposed a larger home, a larger building on the first lot, and then the subsequent lots associated with the common drive. This property ended up, and that first lot proposed the existing dwelling to be demolished. Someone else had purchased the property after the order conditions were in place. In keeping the same limit of work as it had with the order of conditions that was issued, now it became a refurbished dwelling instead of demolishing it. The only difference was a shed on the property, which would have been assessed under a certificate of, a request for determination, not part of the NOI. And the plans that they had filed were what you all have in your packets, showing the refurbished dwelling plans, which, excuse me, kept the existing driveway with improvements to it. And again, improving the structure itself. So what they're looking for is to, because that wasn't in association with the order of conditions that are in the file listed under DEP file number 112521, they're looking to sell the lot. There's currently a lien on the property, even though the project was never completed, never carried out in association with the associated order of conditions. They requested a partial due to the fact that the original order of conditions was associated with the entirety of the common drive and the 3 lots associated with it, as to they are just looking for a sign off on lot 1. So that would leave the other 2 lots open for a sign off when it affects them. I know that was a lot. I
I'm
apologize.
trying to process, yeah.
Questions?
So, they're looking for a partial sign off. What was the?
On the original order of conditions, which
yeah.
is this.
Gotcha. And what were they proposing on the original order conditions?
So
Was it-
here's the dwelling that was refurbished.
Yeah.
But as you can see, the existing dwelling in the order of conditions was to be demolished.
Gotcha.
A much larger structure, maybe 2-3 times the size, would be put on the lot, and they actually subdivided the lots differently than in this plan as well. That's why it doesn't apply either, along with the fact that the septic is in a completely different area, where now the lot cuts off about,
Look at the same
oh, maybe
thing.
it's the same. Yeah, so now the septic is over here. The building
okay,
structure stayed the same with sort of minimal expansion on the front for a garage, and then a shed over on this side. And these are the plans filed with the Board of Health. But again, not in association with the order of conditions, but it does keep the same limit of work as in the original order of conditions. So most, or at least for a couple commissions that I've had experience with now, along with attending their meetings, along with having 2 experiences of it here, if there's a previous order of conditions and someone is following the same project or property, we typically ask them to come in to just, or write a letter just confirming that they're looking to follow the same thing. This property, again, it was before my time, so I'm not sure, but because it does still in fact, keep the same limit of work that's proposed on the plan that's associated with the order of conditions, and keeping the dwelling smaller than the original proposed and within the relatively same footprint of the pre-existing dwelling, and just improving upon that structure. I don't see why there'd be need for a secondary filing, because it's a larger impact, it's a lesser impact with the
Right.
same limit of work. But yes, so they're just looking for a partial certificate of compliance for lot 1 that's associated with the work that was never completed.
Gotcha, so they want to close that
Does that
out,
make sense now?
basically. It does, it does.
Excuse me.
And we're not worried about the because it's less invasive as to what they actually did.
That's my viewpoint. anyways.
Right,
If
right,
you feel
no.
differently, I'm
I'm
fine.
trying to picture the project and maybe, like I said,
Well,
it's
just
too many, like,
This one here is
So this,
this is the
Frank
actual, right?
came to get the permit. He's the sign up on it.
Okay.
So I don't know if you would remember him.
Is it-
but-
Are they part of this long driveway?
Yes.
Is that the crazy common driveway? Not crazy, but ended up being a lot more than it was.
I can show you the original. I don't have the current.
Yeah.
driveway. So this shows 4 lots. I don't know if it extends beyond that.
Long hill.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was gonna be more, but
So basically, they decided not
Actually,
to
no,
build
I
that
think
house and
it-
just,
It may be only because Edinger, he owns that whole property still.
gotcha. Gotcha. So now, so they were gonna rip that down, build
but they
that,
didn't.
yeah, and go with that field. Now, it looks like that field is their backup field, right? Putting the field over where the house was gonna be, and they're just keeping that. Now, is this
Yes.
the buffer, what's the,
Yep, that's the 100-foot buffer. There's no riparian zone, so there's no 200-foot buffer associated with it. So the only work in the jurisdictional area was, associated with
Yeah.
this lot would be this house and any proposed demolition work, which didn't occur, to the
right,
best of my knowledge.
right,
In a shed that is
there.
just about over here at the corner of the house.
Gotcha.
And that's all lawn now, and it's a really beautiful property, but
Believe it.
the only thing that I had mentioned in the site visit report was there was a metal basketball hoop. It was laying in the trees over here in the buffer zone, and I notified them and just said, that's the only thing, just move it. It's not in the ground. It's something you can move, it's something that was put there. I don't know if their kids grew up or not, so it's not something I'm concerned about at all.
Okay. Any other thoughts, concerns, questions?
So what are we actually trying to do? We're gonna try to close this off because
We're
they
trying to close lot
refurbished the
1.
house.
Yeah.
But did they do it without asking?
No, they didn't. They asked,
They
their
asked and
permits
somebody
signed
said,
off.
okay, yeah, so.
And like I said, I believe the reason why that occurred was because it was less impactful to the area. They were refurbishing the dwelling, not demolishing or adding extensive additions to the property, and keeping the same footprint of the limit of work in terms
Yeah.
of erosion control.
Yeah.
Um,
Unfortunately, the new plan said call for it to be out of the buffer zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not gonna fix that now. I mean, if you're relatively comfortable with it, I
I'm
can't see
comfortable
why
with it.
not.
I don't see why not either.
Oh,
And they've
It's a
let,
smaller house than what they were gonna put on there anyway, right?
yep,
yeah.
and they've let this grow
It's in the
in, so
buffer
it's
zone instead of
tall grassy
Yeah.
area in the woods.
It's in the buffer
In the
zone.
buffer zone instead of out,
Yeah.
but it's,
But it was there to begin with.
yes.
Yes.
In that case, would I be opening a motion to issue a certificate of to issue a partial certificate of compliance?
So you can do one of two things.
Yeah.
They're requesting a partial, and the partial specifies it is hereby certified that only the following portions of work regulated by the above referenced order of conditions have been satisfactorily completed. The project areas or work subject to this partial certification that have been completed and are released from this order are, so we could just say work associated with lot 1. Your other option is, like we've done on the other property, an invalid order of conditions where it is hereby certified that the work regulated by the above referenced order of conditions never commenced. However, I think the partial applies more because there is still a limit of work. It is in the buffer area. It was jurisdictional to the commission. They were mindful of the limit of work and kept that boundary there. So I would feel that a partial is more
It's more of the,
applicable to the situation.
okay. Now the question's kind of reading again.
Why don't they come in and talk about this with us?
Just want to,
Yeah,
I have to
it's not
type it, but it's.
I got you. All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we issue a partial certificate of compliance for 279 Long Hill Road, hereby certifying that only the following portions of work regulated by the submitted order of conditions have been satisfactorily completed. Project areas or work areas in this part of certification that have been completed and are released from this order are
Associated with lot 1.
parts of the order associated with lot 1. All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved.
I need to
What do we take?
retype
Yeah.
that. You know what I'll do? I'll just leave them in my office. People can come in to sign them.
Sign.
Some people don't have to wait if they don't need to.
That's fine. I mean, that's easy for me if other people are all right with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Great, Jeff.
Do you have cookies?
I didn't bring any this week. I was out
I'll
late
have
last
some in my
night.
office for
Is that-
me.
Is there anything else we need to get to this evening?
Three things.
Go ahead.
Well, two things. The third thing I'm gonna go over fairly quickly, specifically the dog rules and regulations. Because I would like to get those to the selectmen so that we can start holding public forums. So I can hear the community's feedback. They should be in your packets if they're not, in a copy. The highlight, so it's now been separated into two, per suggestion of Pam to make things more concise. It's not addressing them individually purposefully, but rather just separating it so if we make a post or any sort of educational material, it's more direct. The highlighted wording is what was added by the animal control officer, specific to limiting use of commercial dog walkers on conservation land to a specific day. That was something she felt from her experience would be beneficial, because then it would still allow for residents and your residents and community members to go on the property without having issues with 12 or more dogs that are off leash,
Commercial fire.
potentially causing problems. Not all of them do, but just saying here's a day where it will be definitely be more populated because of their dogs from other towns who are being walked there. So it does make sense to me, but I also had the conversation that I think even just the rules and regulations may reduce any potential issues. So that may be something we want to look at and add later. But if the commission wants it in this draft specifically, I have no problem with it. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that that was the only new piece of information, aside from the separation for just aesthetics, I guess, of the regulations.
I'm just confused because I'm seeing that the allowable number of animals is 1 animal per adult hand, but then it says down here that dog walkers shall not congregate with more than 5 dogs. So is this addressing somebody who's coming with more than 2 dogs?
So, no, what it's saying is 1 animal per adult hand
Yeah,
is what's allowable. For
Okay.
the congregated commercial dog walkers, that's based off of what we've seen in the issues that I've gotten calls about throughout our properties, actually, not only at Bower Springs, and that's either there's an event held without the town's knowledge and there's multiple dogs there, multiple, 20 or more, I forget the exact number that it was, or there's multiple dog walkers there that are allowed, so they may have 2 per hand, but the congregation of them.
but they're meeting up with a
Yeah,
group of
right.
other dog walkers.
Yep.
Is this a new document to go with this, or is this an existing document?
This is, so
The commercial dog walker conservation manual, is
this
that
was
new?
basically, both of these are new documents as far as Bolton
Okay.
is concerned.
Okay,
It looks like this.
okay.
Just for,
I guess,
it was basically the same document, but our town clerk had suggested that
so they're both new documents.
You're both the same document.
they're the same information, but new document in their organization.
Got it, okay.
Yes. Yep.
So this
Mike-
is just edited down.
Yes,
Yeah.
this was literally taken out of the main and then just split into 2.
So I just worry, like, say you have a dog and you hire someone to walk them, right? Midday. So they're restricted all days except for Wednesday for taking them out on conservation land.
Potentially, yes, and
Okay.
that's why I had said, I think it's certainly beneficial to some extent, but keeping that in mind as well, because as a Bolton resident, I've run into more the opposite where some of them are Bolton residents, most of them are from out of town.
Right.
The businesses from out of town, they come use the property,
Dogs
which is
from out of
fine.
town too?
Yes.
Okay,
But you're right, and that's why I made the comment of, well, because we're imposing these new rules and regulations, maybe it'll tone down the congregation of dogs anyways.
yeah,
But again, it is good to know, just like when we have cross-country meets, we do notify the public, we do put a notice on the bulletin board and we say, expect these days,
right.
there's gonna be a cross-country meet, because there's gonna be no parking, and it's gonna be a great time, you can come enjoy it if you want, but this is what's going on the property that specific day. Just to notify people of traffic in terms of people on the
Yeah,
property
yeah.
along with
Use.
parking.
The other thing is this would really go a long way to just eliminating the entire practice, because these people cannot make any money walking 2 dogs.
Yeah.
They're not gonna drive from Marlboro to here with 2 dogs.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I
It's
think,
just not fiscally
Right,
viable.
right,
So this will basically eliminate the problem without really eliminating it.
right,
yeah.
So I'd be, with the 1 day per week, I like the notion, but I'd almost be willing to take that out now.
okay,
And
That's
it's
totally
always
fine.
something we can add in at a later date.
yeah,
So you're
Think
not
you're-
limiting commercial dog walking, but you're limiting large groups.
Correct, yeah,
Right,
I feel better
yeah.
about that too,
Yeah.
yeah.
It seems like this is something we can grow, like we can
Sure.
put certain restrictions
Right.
in, if we still see a problem, add restrictions rather than
Yes.
trying to.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, if you hire somebody to come Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays to work your thing.
Exactly.
When you're working,
As I say, I
That's
think you're
different
running, I think you're running
Yeah.
more people that are watching a household, that somebody's that's house sitting or whatever for
Right.
fee, that's
That's what
walking
I
the
worry
1 or 2
about.
dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
Which are fine there, but yeah, okay. So with that said, I've been reading through these for a while now. I think they're doing pretty good for a start.
okay.
If other people want to take their time with them, read through them, do we just basically need to approve them? Do we need to do that in a meeting? Is that something we can do via email?
It needs to be in a meeting.
Okay.
So it will be,
Okay.
I can put it on the next meeting agenda. And it's approving it, but then also recommending that the selectmen consider it
Yeah.
as well. And because they need to approve the rules and regulations.
Gotcha.
What is number 8? Do you mind just looking at number 8?
Number 8.
If the number of animals exceeds the allowable number of animals, said animal shall be leashed, bridled, or restrained on a tether or leash no greater in length.
Yep, so if the number of animals exceeds the allowable number of animals, so the allowable number of animals is 1 animal per adult hand.
Right.
Said animal shall be leashed, bridled, or restrained on leash or tether. So that basically says you can have more dogs, but they need to be leashed and under your direct control.
Okay.
So because Bolton does not have a leash law, and by no means is this a leash law,
Okay.
because that's something that,
Yeah,
Bolton
that's-
does have a leash law.
Don't think we do.
No leash
I don't
law.
think we do, yeah.
I mean,
what is your experience with
I
that?
have 13 dogs.
Yes.
I'm a dog breeder. There are no dogs running loose in Bolton. I mean, I've been here 20.
No
On
leash law on
conservation
conservation land.
property.
Oh!
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
On
yeah.
Sorry, I
conservation
should've
land.
Right, because you can't let your dogs run loose.
No,
Right.
no, no.
Right.
They have to be
Not
under
like-
voice
Yes,
command.
yes,
However,
yes,
it's,
yes.
you open your door and they're gone for the day.
But if that's the
Okay.
case, what Emily just brought up, and this,
It just
number,
seems
number
to
8
contradict,
negates
right?
number 5. I mean, you know, if you could have 10 dogs
Yeah,
on a 4-foot leash,
yeah,
which is clearly, you know, and then the 2 poor people that happen to be riding their horses
mhm,
come through, and you got somebody getting thrown off a horse, because you can't control 10 dogs.
right,
So the limit of 2 dogs is good.
yeah,
The limit of more dogs just because they're on a leash is ridiculous.
okay.
Yeah. The only thing I
And there's a
worry,
real danger, excuse me,
Go
but
ahead.
there's a real danger as a guy who rides. There's a real danger with dogs running loose
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're riding. A real danger.
Yep.
Horses don't like dogs.
No,
yeah, and some dogs don't like horses either.
Yeah.
And horses kill people.
yeah,
Yeah.
So do dogs.
The one thing I would say with that, I just worry about, I know there are some people in town that will have like 3 dogs. It's always the person that has
We'll
3
make
dogs.
it 3.
Right.
yeah.
But I
We
would,
can,
the one per adult hand, like you could have 2 off leash. If you want to bring all 3 of your dogs, 1 has to be on leash. You know,
Oh,
how-
2 can be off, that's what that means, okay. That's what
Right,
was
so
just
you
very
can have, you can
confused.
bring 2 dogs there off leash, as long as you have leashes for them. Once you have more than 2 animals, you need to
One
have
of
at
them
least
has-
one of them on a leash. Or,
So
you
the
know, if you
2
have 3, at least 1 has to be on a leash.
so I think you bring up a good point though, because
But I
we
think
should-
that again, you know, Brian, you
ahead.
cannot control 3 dogs off leash if a bunch of people come through on a horse. You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
I'm a professional
Should be a-
dog handler.
Should be.
Yeah.
I can't control 3 dogs.
Yeah, well, and then I think that's why it's saying,
Get
once,
rid of the horses.
you know, once you
Pardon?
go
I ride
past
my
2.
dogs on horseback, but my dogs are acclimated to horses.
Yeah.
Most dogs aren't.
Yeah,
Right.
well, all right.
I just think that, you know, for the people that ride, there's a ton of people in this community that ride, this is a potential problem.
Yeah,
Because, you know, the average person, with all due respect, the
Sure.
average homeowner cannot control their dog very well.
yes.
And, you know, if you think you can, just watch what happens when a squirrel runs across the yard.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, you know,
And, you know, so if you got 3 dogs off leash in a conservation area and the people are riding, I think it's
Right.
a recipe for disaster.
right.
So here's my
Go
question then, in association with that, because it is a good point, and that is something that had been brought up, and that's why we were doing the 1 per adult hand. But in keeping in mind the fact that some people have 3 dogs, which the other option is you just don't take them all out at once.
Say,
Um,
But by
so-
the way, if this is right, then,
Yeah.
if this is, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting,
No.
you could have 2 dogs on a leash and 10 dogs running loose.
No,
No,
the
no,
opposite.
it'd be the
Two
opposite.
The
loose.
opposite.
2
10
off
Loose and
leash,
10 on a
and the
leash.
rest you'd have to have on leash.
Which
yeah.
still,
Okay, which is still,
Yeah,
So I-
hopefully you
yeah.
can.
I think it may be beneficial.
I like the one hand, but my opinion is
One dog per
per
hand.
one hand,
Yeah.
and then that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
I think that if you have three dogs, out
Make
there,
two trips.
make two trips, right?
Yeah.
Have to throw, yeah.
One on each hand.
Yeah,
He's right. Can't control one dog.
There you go.
Yeah.
The average person cannot.
you
Yeah.
know?
Especially when they're out and about, they've been in
I
the house
think-
all day, they
Yeah.
get out in the country and they,
I actually think the dog thinks he can't control me.
right.
What really is going on? But
Well, that's, but the dog is a better trainer than you are.
yes.
Yeah.
See, he's trained you better than you train him.
Yeah, exactly
And
right.
people
That's usually the
people
case.
have vastly different definitions of what a well-trained dog is. Vastly
Exactly.
different, like,
You get
no,
that right.
and it's not.
That's true.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's what that means, number 8, right?
Number 8, if the number of animals exceeds the one animal per adult hand, said animal shall be leashed, bridled, or restrained on a tail leash with no greater in length than 7 feet. Okay, so what do we want to do about that? Do we want to just get rid of that
And leave it at that.
and
Leave
leave
it
it
at
at
one dog per one hand.
adult hand?
That's
One
what I
animal per adult
agree.
hand.
And I would say for number 4, I think if there's a horse approaching, they should be leashed.
Yeah,
I
dogs must
really
be
do.
leashed or under
But it says under physical control, meaning
Yeah,
you're
so
holding
holding
them.
the collar.
Okay,
That's it,
not
yeah.
voice command.
Yeah, I walk out there all the time. I've never run into a horse out there.
I haven't seen any horses
Rarely.
either.
I
Rarely.
have twice.
Yeah.
Really?
Actually, I walked into horse poop once and then ran into horses twice. Or I didn't run into horses, but saw them.
I've seen the horse.
I get the droppings.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, see
Yeah,
the
it's
I've never
really
seen
hard.
I've never seen a horse out there.
Once, I think. last
I
few
think,
years.
where is it over, like over up on the hill, that highest point?
Yep, as you're cutting
I
up
haven't
around.
been up there in a
On
year.
hills.
Yeah, on
Yep.
hills, there's a horse farm, or there's
Yes.
somebody who has backyard ponies there.
Yep.
Yep.
So there's,
I see.
I've been out there. I go there a
you've
couple
never
times a week,
seen?
and there's horse poop all over the place. But
Yeah.
never seen
Someone
one
was
of
racist.
I've seen those people out there with 3 or 4 dogs.
Yeah.
You know, they come flying at, you know, my one dog, they come flying at me. Oh, here's Fred, like. yeah.
I know my dog's standing going, who are you?
He's friendly.
So it looks like we want to keep it at the one.
Okay,
One
so
per
we
dog
want
hand,
to
yeah.
get rid of 8.
Yep.
You know what? Yeah, that's fine. You know what I'm thinking? That was from the dog walkers specifically, and that should
Yeah,
have
I
gone
think
over
so.
and now I'm
That's the other
that
one.
again. Let me just make sure here. But no, because it's 1 per adult hand, so that's fine. Acting.
I think the 12 and 13 are the same essentially.
Persons
Yeah,
who
pick it up, don't leave it
consent to
there.
Conservation program
Yeah.
shall.
Does that include horse poop?
Except for your horse.
Well, that's what number 13 is about. Right? All about pets. Yeah.
Yeah, so what is the, I mean, it's,
So why don't I'll just get rid of 12 and keep,
it's kind
I'll
of
combine these two.
complicated to go back and pick up horse manure after you
You
come back from the
can't-
trail
Yeah,
ride.
usually.
The other thing though that's really important is that dogs are carnivores and horses are herbivores.
Right.
Yeah, there's a
Who-
difference.
Whole different, yeah,
Totally
whole different
different.
stuff coming out.
One's
Yeah.
fertilizer, the other is relatively
Is
toxic.
Right.
Okay, so I'll combine those two so it's 1 and not repetitive.
Yeah. 16 is out, that's the same one as before, right?
Yep,
Correct.
16's out. 16 and
Yeah.
then 2 on commercial dog walker, because it's repeated.
It would be a good idea to have a commercial dog walker go to the town hall and get a permit for that day.
Well, we have to do that associated with the bylaw.
Yep,
Rules and
yep.
regulations
That's
come
in-
first.
going in
bylaw.
Oh, okay. I mean, that would solve the problem right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that would end it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in other
You get a
towns.
one-day permit to walk your dogs,
Yeah.
$10.
Well,
$20.
In other
at
towns,
least for
they do
people out of
annual
town.
permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like if you have to pay whatever it is, I buy a kennel license, but if you have to pay $20 or whatever to license your dog, why can somebody from Maynard come here and use our conservation land for free?
Leave his
Exactly.
feces behind.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Creating
that's a
revenue.
great idea.
You know, that's what I would do.
So money passes.
We'll give the lead to Rebecca on that one, right?
For what?
We'll work on that, yeah.
On creating revenue from dog walkers.
So we'll see if we get these policies in place first, and then we'll go from
Step by
there.
step.
You must admit though, it is cool when you see somebody, particularly in the city, some young gal walking like 7 dogs, and I just wonder how they do it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's so in control half the time.
It
Yeah,
is.
like, wow,
And the
wow.
dogs all get along.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Because
It's
they're
a good thing.
cool.
It's cool.
I was they're used to it. Yeah, every day we go out for an hour and run together. Yeah. Any other comments on those right now?
Not me.
This will be at the December 5th
I was
meeting,
gonna say
so if
we'll-
you want to review them.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then
good.
email me comments prior to then. Perfect. Okay, 2 more things?
Please.
Okay, the other item is a draft policy for gifts on conservation land relative to the information well, this has come up because of the memorial bench that was proposed. Did everyone get those emails associated with it? It's a granite bench, very minimal disturbance. That's something we still have to approve?
And what is that, overlooking the pond?
Yes.
Okay.
In memory of.
In memory of a community member who really liked the property, and it'll just simply say in memory of the name of that individual. And they have yet to hear back from the company because they need to have it engraved and everything, so they're still, it probably won't be done till spring at this point. So we're not affecting their timeline in a negative sense. So this is, the draft policy is just putting something in place sort of as an internal policy so that there's not so many, what do we do when someone proposes it. I also added in, because we cannot solicit donations, but in this circumstance where someone approached us about it, that's a different consideration. Also, I did add in there that it has to be beneficial to the natural resource areas. I forget how I exactly worded it, but I put it in the sense that you can donate vegetation as well. So if you want to have plantings of native vegetation or a tree or something like that, that's it. I love things like that, but also in the sense that it's keeping within the nature of the property and of the whole point of having conservation property.
So this is not gonna open up a watershed of people putting
This is for
Flags
our
and,
knowledge.
This is more
This is-
for us.
No, all I'm
We
saying,
have the right to say no.
They all have to be, everybody has to propose it and.
Yeah. Like those things on the side of the road.
Yeah,
I would think that'd be, troublesome, but at least if they have to come to us first.
they do.
Yeah. If we start
They
running
most
into
definitely
issues,
do.
we would go,
Yeah,
we would switch from there, yeah.
Yes.
well, I don't have a problem with this. I think that one woman's one is fairly tasteful. I don't really have an
Yeah.
issue with that one, but
Yeah, and
somebody wants to.
It's also in the event that, because there is technically already a bench on, well, more than one
It's
bench.
two,
There's two
yeah,
wooden
it's
ones
wooden
and
ones.
then one granite. It's also to be mindful of, even with benches, you don't want to be putting a lot of
Right.
things out on the property.
Right. Next thing you know, somebody's gonna put a pagoda in there or something.
Yeah, I don't even know.
No, I mean,
But-
as long as we have the right to say no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yes, we do. We still will hold that right. And then the only other item, it's sort of a packet of information, just so you can see my reasoning. It's a draft policy for accepting the Phosphid open space land. And at the top is basically what my suggestion is. It doesn't have to be a very extensive policy because it's already in our Phosphid
This one.
development. Yes, that one. But it just compares it to a few other towns that the town planner and I saw were similar to Bolton. So there's technically three options. The first option would be the town, the second, a nonprofit entity, like Conservation Trust, the trustees, Sudbury Valley trustees, or a corporation or trust owned by the owner of the lot, so homeowners association, etc. If it goes to the town, if it falls under the goals associated with the open space and recreation plan, then it would be, or if it's jurisdictional to the commission, I would strongly suggest we keep it under management of the Conservation Commission. If not, then it may go to the town. The only thing is, when it goes to the town, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, they have the option to sell it or build on it in the future if it's ever needed. Where if it's in conservation, either with a restriction or not, depending on the property, it will be in perpetuity.
All right, and you're giving us some examples of how other towns have done it.
Yeah, and you can take that home and read through it.
Say this one, but I want to read
Give
through
me
them. What-
feedback.
Yeah.
And then just lastly, the last item in your packet is the Oak Trail development. One of the builders has held off on installing the septic because they were waiting on us if we will allow them to have access through, is it not in the packet?
What is
It's
that?
not in there, but I think there was an email about it.
Is that across the street from the educational,
Yes,
Yeah.
international?
international, yep. So there is a conservation. There's a conservation, there's a piece of open space that was donated to the conservation, to the town, under the conservation, management of the Conservation Commission. There is an easement that basically closes the loop from the open space side. There is about 25 feet that is blocking them from accessing the septic area from the road. If they enter the property from Oak Trail, it is a substantial drop off and not, they would have to do more work to create an area that they could drive down temporarily to put the septic in and then remove it. And in the past, they have used access ways off the road. They're old logging roads. There's some small white pine saplings. They're not even saplings, seedlings really. And the first individual we would be requesting him to revegetate the area after using the access. And it would just be on that logging road. They're not
Yep.
removing any more of the stone wall because there's already sections that they can go through at present that have historically been there. The other lot, which isn't proposed to be worked on as of yet, he has already proposed to restore the area in terms of vegetation, to replant it to make it stable afterwards. Again, it's 25 feet coming from Ballville, yes,
Yes.
across from the International, and going in, coming out, revegetated.
Yeah, it's probably worse.
And it's less invasive than coming down from
And
Oak
digging
Trail.
through and cutting over,
Cutting
yeah.
trees, yeah.
Is it something that you can just give them the okay on? Is that something we need to vote on?
I can give them the okay. I wanted it to be discussed
Yeah.
at a meeting, so we have it documented, because in the past, I have a few correspondences that lead me to believe that since the cart paths are on the original plan, showing that they were historically there, or they were there in the past, rather, I'm not sure how historic, that there is some truth to what the contractor and developers were saying. So I don't have a huge concern with it. Um, But it is through the open space, so I just want it to be, like I said, recorded,
No.
documented, so now we have
Yeah.
it. So if there's any question in the future, or if for some reason any of us aren't here for whatever reason, we have it, and so there's no confusion. So yes.
Okay. In that case, I would be fine with giving them permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please.
Just put back what you take out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Pack it in, pack it out.
So mention revegetation to both of them.
Unless it's knotweed, then.
Yeah,
No, there's no knotweed over
That's
there.
too
There's
bad.
one spot, the
that
one
works
place.
great, yeah.
And no pagodas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's no flags.
That's really it.
That's really
That
it.
I have.
You sure?
Anyone else have any?
So do you have anything else?
No?
Usually new members have to recite poetry.
Yes.
We're
We'll close with poetry. And then, no.
All right.
A limerick, please.
All right, everybody's favorite motion. I'd like to make a motion that we officially close the November 28th meeting of the Bolton Conservation
Whatever rules
Commission. I was gonna let him get off having to say the poem because I didn't want to get us in trouble.
What's that?
Second.
Oh, I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so close. Good night,
Good night.
TV.
Yeah, just turn it off faster.
How did that get turned off?
As soon as we close the meeting, we cut it because I'm sure he wants to go
Oh,
home.
is
There's
Ken
cameras.
upstairs? No.
Yeah, no, there's cameras set, but I think they're over in the BATV building.
Yep.